All right, hello and welcome to the BLX webinar presented by JD Bruce. I'm going to turn the time over to Suzanne Lawrence, who will be introducing JD in just a minute. But before we do, I just want to thank you all for registering to attend this webinar. As a reminder, we do have a firm information session scheduled for November 1st that will be presented by the BLX team. If you have any other questions about participating in our program, please let us know. You can always email us at info@blxinternship.org, or you can drop a message in the chat. So with that, I'll turn the time over to you, Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Leisha. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suzanne Lawrence. I am the CEO of Advisor Business Solutions. We are founding partners with the BLX Internship program, and our role is working very closely with all the participating firms who sign up so that we can understand your needs and your hiring criteria. And then we will provide matchmaking with pre-qualified interns who apply to the program. We are wanting to just make a quick mention that it is currently October month where the application period is open now for firms interested in having summer 2024 interns to our program. If you are interested in hiring local interns for local offices, we do encourage you to sign up in October so that we can meet with your team and then be available to understand what locations you are looking for in your offices across the US. So if you can, let us know if you have any questions. We totally appreciate it, but we really want to encourage you to reach out and sign up as soon as you can so that we can help you with your local hires. This afternoon, we're very happy to have JD Bruce share his wisdom on how to be successful with your internships. JD is a mindful and very dynamic RAA consultant for firms needing transparent guidance and tech integration solutions for strategic growth. He's also an organization leader with the Global Association of Independent Advisors, who are focused on financial planning worldwide, and recently met in Switzerland last month. JD was a key leader driving growth and innovation at Abacus Wealth Partners for over a decade, managing over $2.5 billion AUM. As far as our connection with the BLX organization, JD was one of the first firms, enterprise firms, to hire several interns through the BLX program. Abacus hired over 11 interns over the 3-year period, and we are continuously hearing updates on interns who were hired full-time, became associate advisors, and are now taking and passing their CFP exams. So we're seeing the program work end-to-end and having a true impact, bringing diverse professionals into the industry. We're thrilled to have JD speak to our group. JD, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. My new thing is waving to everyone, which I'm now doing in person. So it's a little awkward when we're out at conferences. I just start waving and I keep waving the whole time. So welcome to, I don't know if I can offer you wisdom, but I can certainly offer you my experience having run the BLX internship at Abacus in 2021 and 2022. We had 6 interns the first year and 4 interns the second year. I found 6 was a little much. I'll tell you a little bit about how we did it to start and how we did it the second time as we go, maybe a little later as we talk. So let me kind of tell you a bit about how we structured our internships. And I have this handy little slide deck that I'll be progressing through as we talk. So in planning the internship, there are 3 big components that we included as part of our thinking. The first was why are we doing an internship? It's nice to have interns. It's nice to bring people into your organization. It's good to give back to the industry. It's good to help train. But ultimately, you need to decide why you're bringing interns into your organization. I say interns because as an enterprise firm, I find it a little bit easier actually to have 2 or more. Again, I had 6 the first year and 4 the next year. And it's a little bit like when you get puppies, if you have multiple puppies, they kind of play together and entertain each other, and you don't have to be involved quite as often because they'll start having meetings on their own, which is fantastic. So first you need to decide why you have interns. Are you bringing them on to broaden your recruiting funnel, which it is fantastic. Of the 10 interns we had, we hired 3. And I can talk through a little bit why it was only 3, because we could have had more if we were a little more targeted, but those were the ones that really fit. Are you just doing it to broaden your own perspective and bring on additional people to kind of give you a sense for what's happening out there in the beginning of the industry, if it's been a while since you've been there? Or are you just doing this to give back to the industry and help people get started, even though you're not hiring yourself? You don't get to say all of these. You get to pick one if you really want to focus your intention and time. Find the primary reason. Are you going to hire? Are you just looking to really broaden your own perspective, or are you looking to give back? If you pick one, you'll be able to actually have a much more successful internship because you'll be able to focus. So I had 2 big pieces of the internship for our interns. One was either rotations or shadowing, however you like to think about it. You want to think about at least 2 or 3 parts of your business that your intern can participate in. I can tell you now that all of them will want to participate in the client service process. They'll want to jump in on client meetings if they can, for sure. But if there are other areas in your business, it's always good to give people a little bit of exposure to as much as possible. So I say it must include one of your advisory teams, including client meetings. Your interns will be disappointed if they don't get experience dealing with the actual client service part of your business. I think it should also include either marketing, portfolio management, client service, some other function in your organization so they can see how the operations work. Now, let's see. Now, it is absolutely true that it is almost impossible to keep an intern busy for an 8-week period the whole time. It would be too much work on your part. So what I did, recognizing that there would always be downtime, is we developed a research project function for those interns. And so I made a list of innovation projects we were researching and presented those to the interns, had them pick one, and it was a project they worked on throughout their entire internship when they didn't have something else to do. It's kind of always your lowest priority thing. And we had some of our interns say, hey, that list is cool, but I'd really rather do this project that I've been really passionate about. And I always said yes, because it actually doesn't matter what they're researching. The point is to have them research something that is something they're passionate about and give them an opportunity to present on that later. And we'll talk a little bit more detail about what is included in that research project, and give you some ideas for some projects that you could include. So purpose. Now, I made these slides intentionally a bit wordy, so I'm not going to just read them all, but I know a lot of people aren't here, so it'll be nice to have these slides afterwards with the information on it. So if you are going to recruit, so as you think about your purpose for this internship, if you're going to recruit, really make this internship an extended job interview. Put them in those situations so you can see how they respond, give them all those tests. Imagine if you had a job interview that lasted 8 weeks, you would know everything about that candidate. So go ahead and do that, particularly culture fit. Look at those times, make sure you're, whatever it is your culture stands out with, make sure you're actually kind of testing out those areas and ensure that that intern is a good fit. It means that if they show up as a fit after 8 weeks, you can't hide for 8 weeks. By the end of 8 weeks, you'll know who that person is. Now, if you want to build a recruiting funnel and not just hire the interns that are coming in, what you want to do is make sure your intern is having a fantastic time so they go back to their school or their communities or wherever, and you want them to just absolutely talk great things about you. It's more about having that intern become your evangelist than a potential employee for yourself. And if you're just looking to expand your own perspective, you might consider that you can find interns that aren't people you would hire, but are kind of outside of the norm. Now, I had a lot of interns, so in each class, I picked one intern to be essentially my non-hireable intern, who was just there to give us some challenging perspective. In the first year, we had a professional doula who wanted to learn more about the financial world and think about teaching their kind of birthing parents a little bit more about finances as they have them in that moment of learning before they have kids. I thought that was fascinating, so I really wanted to kind of understand how that would work, and it was a really good experience for me and for her. In my second year, we had someone who was studying social work and wanted to bring financial education out there to kind of the social worker world. And we got some really amazing perspective from her. She taught a couple webinars to our whole staff while she was with us and really brought us some fantastic ideas from the social work space. Rotations. I mentioned you should put people through rotations. I'll show you the timeline for how we did that. But I want to talk through a few things. The first thing is a lot of our advisors, when we did our internship, were a little uncomfortable about the idea of bringing interns to client meetings. We said, just ask your client. I will tell you that the clients are ecstatic to help you. Not every client. You might have a client who says, no, I'm not comfortable with that. But almost all of them, when you explain what you're doing, you're participating in this BLX internship, you're trying to bring financial planning to underrepresented groups. And the client's like, really? Oh my God, this is great. Now, we had a bunch of very liberal clients who are very into this sort of thing. So I'm not surprised that they were excited. But I think clients in general are excited about being brought into the training process for your intern. So you ask them, bring the intern in, and it's exciting. The biggest problem with bringing interns in the meeting is it kind of derails your meeting because your client wants to talk to the intern the whole time and ask them about how their life is and how college is going or why they're moving into the industry. Because the client really wants to know that. So you can't just tell the intern not to speak, but you can obviously tell them not to speak about financial planning matters. I treated my interns who were in client meetings with me as associate advisors. I had them take the meeting notes. They wrote up a meeting summary, and then I coached them on how to make those summaries better. It's a really great training process, which if you're not using that for your associates, where you have them in your meeting, take all the notes, write up the draft email for the client at the end, I suggest you start. It is fantastic. Part of the challenge we ran into with client meetings is we were in the middle of summer, and if your firm's anything like mine was, a lot of your clients don't want to meet in the summer. And so sometimes you have a 2-week period or 4-week period where you don't have any client meetings. If that's the case, see if you can schedule a few special ones and explain to the client what you're doing and see if they're willing to meet with you. So try and book as many client meetings during that 8-week period as you can. If you're a surge meeting person, schedule your surges while your intern's there. If you're not a surge meeting person, congratulations, your life is probably much easier. And in that time, you can schedule a bunch together. So research projects, like I said, it fills their free time, but also in the process of doing the research, what you can do is introduce your intern out to a lot of different people out in the industry. You probably have a lot of friends who didn't take an intern but would love to participate with your interns. You probably have tech vendors, you have custodians, you have investment professionals that your interns can go and interview. And what this does is it gives that intern a lot of useful networking opportunities and teaches them how to go out there and network. I think it's fantastic. At the end, have them write up some deliverable and make them present it to someone, whether it's your executive team, your board, or another group. Suzanne mentioned I'm with a group called the Global Association of Independent Advisors. It's a group of international financial advisors all around the world. And I had an intern who was an expat living in the US. She was from Ghana. And she came in and did a research project on cross-border planning and the benefits of adding that to your firm. And I had her present to the Gaia executive team as opposed to our firm. The point is to give them the experience of doing a formal presentation to a professional group. And it works out fantastically. All right. Any particular questions that have come up yet? I'm happy to take a few while we're waiting.
Katie, we did have a question from Kelly. Did you see that
I do.
one?
I see it. Kelly is asking, does that include virtual meetings? My internships were 100% virtual. Of the 10 interns I had over those 2 years, I've met 3 of them in person. And that was after the internships ended. And for the most part, this was all during COVID, so all of my meetings were virtual. So I find it actually much easier to have the interns attend a virtual meeting, and in general have extra people attend virtual meetings because they can just kind of hide in the background. They can turn their video off if you want them to, and I think that that works fine. So yeah, I think like I said, my whole internships were virtual, so they kind of had to be. But yeah, virtual meetings are fantastic. Have them pop in and do all that. I didn't find it was a problem at all. Any other questions out from the group, whether you've posted them or not? All right, well, let me show you the timeline that we did. Now, the first year I did this a little weird, and I didn't totally like it. What I did is I had every intern was with us for 8 weeks, but the internship was 16 weeks long. So I had 2 interns for 8 weeks, and then 4 weeks later I had 2 more start, and then 4 weeks later I had 2 more start. So I did these kind of rotations. That was a lot. I expect I don't recommend that. I think having the next year we had all 4 there for all 8 weeks, and it worked much better. Okay, Zach had a question. Do I have thoughts on the relative differences between interns who are in school, recent grads, or career changers? I do actually have a lot of those thoughts. The career changer interns, if you're looking to hire, your career changer interns obviously are much more ready to jump in than recent grads. And certainly if you're looking to hire, I don't recommend grabbing interns who are kind of between their junior and senior year because they aren't hireable. You have to wait. And by the time they graduate, you may not be hiring at that point, or they're now looking across a bunch of different firms because now they're doing a job search. So if your main goal is to find employees, focus on career changers and maybe a couple of recent grads. So you might go half and half. If you're doing this to expand your perspective or just give back to the industry, then grabbing, I found a mix in my intern classes very helpful. So I'll talk about my second year intern class. I had 2 career changers. I had one, I had the social worker who was actually in the middle of social work school, so she wasn't a social worker yet. So I had someone in kind of graduate school, and then I had another one who was just wrapping up school and graduating recently. And I found that they were, because all 4 of them really had a different perspective about the industry, they were able to bring each other a lot of wisdom about their own journeys in a way that I thought was really valuable. So I highly recommend kind of getting a bunch of different ones, but definitely, I mean, I think we can all recognize that a career changer is going to be a faster start when they start with your firm. You don't have to teach them how to kind of be a worker type of person, right? They know how to work in an office and in a team. Recent grads are great. We have had lots of recent grads that we hired at Abacus. And they're a bit of a slower start, but depending on what you're aiming to do in terms of your growth, you may want someone to take 3 or 4 years to be ready to graduate to be a lead advisor instead of 1 or 2. So kind of depending on the speed you need them to work. If you're hiring two, I think it's always great to get a career changer and a recent grad in the same hiring class, because they tend to work really well together. They're certainly not going to compete. And again, if you're looking to hire, I would focus on people who have already graduated, or whether it's a recent grad or a career changer. But they all had a great time on the internship. So the internship itself, I will say that my people who are still in school, their presentations were very school-like, and I think it's a great opportunity to give them some perspective on what presentations look like post-academia. Some of my career changers struggled a little bit with the research, because it's been a while since they had to go in and do some kind of formal research projects. And so that was that was a fun one as well, giving them a little bit more perspective on, hey, here's how you would want to present to us in this kind of situation. All right, let's look at timeline. So here's just an example. If you're going longer, expand. If you're going shorter, I don't think you can, because I'm showing you 8 weeks, and that's kind of the bare minimum. But if you're going for a 12-week internship, just add a few more rotations, or find something that works for your team. And the order isn't magic. Whatever works, works. So it doesn't, you don't have to follow this exact structure. And in fact, we didn't for a lot of our interns, just because the teams they were rotating with were in weird situations. So the way I operated the 8-week internship, first week is just onboarding, project selection, mentoring, introductions. They spent a lot of time with me that week. I probably spent 20, 25 hours in meetings with the interns as a group or individually, just getting them going. Then after the first week, they all rotate into some group in your organization. Ideally, I like to start them with an advisory team. And so if you think about the size of your firm, if you have multiple teams, the way we did it the second year is we had 8 teams and we hired 4 interns. It's actually really, then every team has 1 intern for 2 weeks. So you just got to think about the impact of your team and how many rotations they have to do. If you only had 2 teams and you have 2 interns, that's fine. Just know that every team is going to have an extra couple weeks of having an intern, which can be great. So I like to start them on an advisory team if you can. If you can't, that's okay. It's okay to start them on an operational team. Then after 2 weeks, they swap. I like to do the operating team in the middle. So they get advisory team, operational team, and then back to an advisory team if you have multiple teams. I think that works really well. If you only have 1 team, that's okay too. That gives your team a break. But at the same time, if they're on 1 team for 4 weeks and then they move into your operations group, that's okay too. So the order doesn't matter that much. Week 8 is when they do their presentations, although some of my interns actually needed to do their presentation after the 8 weeks. So they came back to do their presentation. That's okay. We did a big celebration at the end. We had the big giant staff meeting and everyone's chatting with each other and celebrating and that sort of thing. And your various kind of offboarding activities just to get them off payroll and whatever else you need to do. And I did in my first and second year, we had a whole speaker series. So I invited a lot of people to come out and speak to the interns. I just kind of reached out to all my friends in the industry and said, hey, you want to talk? The second year, we did it more in conjunction with BLX. So it was a little less crazy on my behalf. But anytime you know someone in the industry who would love to participate, whether it's a client, another advisory firm, or someone from one of your vendors or custodians, I think it's fantastic. Bring them in to talk to your interns, give your interns an experience with that networking among the groups. And it was a really great experience. I actually recorded all of those and we did a little video at the end and it made me cry. So I highly recommend any of those activities you're going to do that when you look back on them, it makes you cry. All right. Any questions about timeline or anything like that? All right. And feel free to jump in and use your voice if you need to. Some considerations that you need to think about as you're going through your planning for your internship. The first is your interns are not there to be administrative professionals. They don't know how to do anything, and that's okay. So forget about productivity. They're not going. You can't leverage your time, and the more admin work you do with them, the less successful your internship will be. Show them a good time. And getting coffee and collating papers is not a good time. I'm not saying you can't make them do any of that, but really focus on making sure they get that good exposure. This is a gift to the industry. You are convincing someone that being a financial advisor is going to be amazing. And if your intern has a bad time and you don't really give them that exposure, they may just stop and go do something else instead. And that's one advisor that will never join our industry and kind of solve our talent problem. Also, it's very fulfilling. Giving these people a really good experience feels really good. So I definitely recommend it. All right. What's helpful for you, since this is the large firm webinar, is that I can, talk about my experience running multiple interns through multiple teams. We had 4 interns, and it basically took someone's full time just to manage the process, coordinating those interns around the different teams and all the speaking events and all the different things we had. So 8 weeks, someone in your organization is really going to need to focus on it. So I had someone who probably spent 25 hours a week, and then I probably spent another 15 to 20 meeting with the interns, mentoring and everything. So it's really about a full-time equivalent job. If you're a smaller firm, you probably only have 1 intern. It's a little different. I'm not going to focus on that right now. So if you are planning to recruit your interns and hire them, walk into that with a plan that your entire team understands, and make sure your entire team is on board. I had a conversation at one point where the team came back and said, "Hey, we're planning on opening up a job position in June." And I said, "We're going to have 4 interns in here in July and August. Are you sure we want to hire in June instead of waiting till September? And that way our interns could potentially get hired." And everyone was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." Right. So we could have hired all our people before our interns showed up, and that would have kind of broken the entire point of the internship, which was to find good people. So make sure you're thinking about your internship holistically, and that if you're going to be doing any hiring, that you plan to do that hiring right after the internship. Don't shortcut the hiring process for your interns. Even though you know them, they've been there for 8 weeks, whatever steps you have for that recruiting process, follow them for your intern. Whether you do that as part of your internship or whether you do it after your internship, it doesn't really matter, but I think the better process is at the end of the internship, say, "We would love for you to apply. We have a position opening up and we'd love to see you apply." And then put them through the same formal hiring process that anyone else would go through. I think it works out much better if you're not shortcutting. And then people don't feel like, well, that person was just a friend of JD, or they got kind of pushed through. Let's see. Sean is asking the question, can you talk a little bit why you decided on 8 weeks as opposed to 12 weeks? Sean likes 12 weeks. He found it takes 8 weeks to get them up to speed, and it isn't until the last month they are able to add value to the firm. I think 12 weeks is great if it's in your budget and you have that time to go through it over 12 weeks. So I think it's awesome. I decided on 8 weeks just because it allowed us to have more people in over that 8-week period, as opposed to fewer people over 12 weeks for the same amount of money, from a budget perspective. The other thing I want to note is that we gave our interns a choice whether they wanted to work full-time or part-time. We recognized that there are some people out there in the community who want an internship that can't work full time. Maybe they have to take care of family, maybe they have another job, and they just can't come in and work full time. There are other people who need to work full time because they need to earn the income. And if you don't hire them full time, they're going to go get another job. So we gave them the choice. So we essentially had budget for 2 full-time and 2 part-time. And it all kind of worked out that that's what they, all 4 of them needed. I'm glad all 4 of them didn't say they wanted to work full-time, but I might have, if they all wanted to work full-time, I might have had to stick to 3 just because that's the budget we assigned for that. But yeah, if you have time and budget for 12 weeks, I think 12 weeks is awesome. It's definitely a much deeper experience. And that is where toward that last month, you will be able to leverage their time a little bit and they can do some actual good productive work for you. Because by that time, you do have enough time to train them. And I think that works out nicely. Let's see. Marcus had a question. Have you had any experience with interns continuing over multiple semesters? If so, what are some suggestions you may have for a firm that's looking into offering that? I don't. We did all of our internships kind of in that time period and didn't take people kind of working part-time with us while they were still in school. But I think it's cool. I think that's a great idea. If you have kind of a part-time internship you want to run even year long, and just always have kind of a part-time intern while they're in school, I think that can be a fantastic experience. You certainly can get a lot more productivity out of the person, both on the CSA team and potentially even as a kind of proto associate advisor joining client meetings. I think it can work out very nicely, but I don't have any experience in that, so can't offer you any of my so-called wisdom on that. And then Zach had another question. What do you think about a longer term fellow that can turn into associate financial advisor role at our firm or another firm? That's cool, right? If you want to do kind of that fellowship process where you bring someone on for a year and kind of train them and either hire them or place them in another firm, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. It's, I think, going to be very different than an internship, right? When I think about internships, I think about it as grown-up summer camp, right? Where it's more about having a good time and a fulfilling time than it is about, training someone. As a fellowship process, I think should be focused more on training, where you're actually just taking them, teaching them all the same stuff you teach an associate financial advisor. And so for me, I'm not sure I would do that, because if I'm going to do that, I might as well just hire the person as an associate advisor with the expectation that they're going to stay. I find that that training process is very expensive, and it would be, while a fantastic gift to give someone, it is definitely kind of hurts my kind of future planning and productivity if I'm training someone for another firm. So that's my thought on it, but I think it's awesome. I know there are firms who do that, and then they kind of they'll have 2 or 3 fellows and they'll pick the best one to hire and they'll place the other ones at other firms. I think that's fantastic. I don't suggest that it's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. With those caveats that it's definitely an expensive gift to the industry. All right, I promised you I would show you a list of potential projects. These are all actual projects that we offered to our interns to research, and some of them they picked, some they didn't. What I did find that a lot of our, especially the career changers, had a lot of expertise already. So we had an intern whose prior life before deciding to change careers was as a learning system consultant who came in and implemented learning systems for universities and companies. So she did a whole project for us on learning management systems and how we could improve our kind of basic classes that we offered out on our website for basic financial courses and things like that. She came in with huge recommendations that we definitely implemented, and then we hired her because she was amazing. We had someone who was a tax preparer in her current job, and she was looking to change careers. And she came and did a research project for us on adding tax preparations to our list of services. I mentioned the intern from Ghana who came in and researched international cross-border planning. And so these are all people who were experiencing the thing they were researching. We had people come in and research group coaching programs. What else did they do that they actually did? Small client service model was another way to kind of improve those things. So the idea here isn't for this research project to benefit you, although it might, and it did at Abacus for sure. The idea is find something they're passionate about and give them the experience of researching something that they really, really are passionate about. Their presentation will be better. This is about giving them the experience more than you, the research. So just keep that in mind. But here are some ideas. But again, you can do any one you want.
Hey, JD.
Hi.
This is super, super helpful. Thank you so much. This is great information. I'm just wondering if you could share any particular challenges with the virtual model.
I didn't have a whole lot of challenges with the virtual model, but I will talk through kind of, why I didn't have those challenges. So first of all, Abacus at that point had gone completely virtual through quarantine. And even before that, Abacus had advisors all around the country. So on some level, we had been a virtual firm, even though we had offices that people went into. Everyone's virtual from someone. And so we had a lot of exposure doing that. Some of the things we did to make that successful was, first of all, whatever you're using for kind of constant communication, which if you don't have this, definitely put it in. So whether you're using Slack or, we use Google Chat, have different rooms where people can talk about whatever it is that they would want to talk about. You need to replace that kind of water cooler conversation or the lunchroom with something. And so we had the various kind of channels that people post their memes and talk about Game of Thrones or whatever it is they want to talk about. They started about being excited about Game of Thrones and they started complaining about Game of Thrones. And then have those different kind of group chat points. And then you're going to have, with your interns, you always want to have at least 2 rooms. One room for them to talk to just each other, along with you and whoever's kind of managing the internship. Maybe even one where they talk to each other and no one else sees it. And also one that's kind of a big group that the interns can talk in and ask questions, and your whole firm can participate in that. You want to schedule and be proactive about all the mentoring meetings. And so our interns, we had a group intern meeting once a week with me and Jason, who was our kind of admin person who was managing the internship. And we met every week with all the interns, and we just talked through for about an hour, hour and a half, everything that's going on, any challenges they had, so we could fix whatever challenges they were having. Then we had, they all had, just the interns had another about hour and a half meeting every week with just themselves to talk through all their challenges in a way that they could be a little more free with how they were talking to each other. And then I met personally with every intern every week for about an hour. So you can see that's 4, 5, 6, about 7 hours of just touching base meetings that involved me, maybe more like 5.5 for me. So there's a lot of intentionality around that. And then you need to make sure in those rotation weeks that whatever team they are meeting with is also meeting for about an hour every week, if not more often. So the whole team would meet for an hour. And then you need to make sure to follow up just about every day with the leader of that team and make sure that intern is getting the things they need. Are they getting invited to client meetings? Are there any client meetings? Can you help them schedule stuff? And just kind of really check that out. So I had, another 4 meetings a week with each of those team leads. So you can see how the time adds up in terms of those people overseeing it. But I think the key to virtual work and having a virtual firm is taking it. It's not any more time than you spend when you're in the office. It's just that instead of spending that time kind of wandering around the office, checking in with people like, hey, everything okay? Everybody cool? We're all good. You're spending it being intentional and, checking in with people, hitting them on chat, reviewing their work, and being as available as possible for them. And that works, and they're fine. And you get to know people really, really well. Just, you got to spend the time, and just imagine all that time you're spending on Zoom is important. Because if you were in the office, you would spend that same amount of time just chit chatting. It would just be casual. And so you have to find a way to take that casual time that you have together, and instead of making it unintentional, you just have to make it intentional. But it is a good amount of time, and managing these people isn't a thing you should walk into lightly. It is definitely a good and productive use of your time, but it is a use of your time. Does that make sense, Kelly? Any questions about that?
Yeah. That's very good information. My worry would be that we'd be so inexperienced at this process that it wouldn't be as beneficial for whomever we choose to be the intern. So I feel a little bit like reluctant on that level in terms of, can we really be of a benefit?
You absolutely can. And if you ever feel like, I wonder if this is working out, ask them, do you need more time with me? Are you getting enough time? Do you feel, neglected? But how can we do this better? I would ask every intern that every week. And they'd come up with stuff. They'll tell you, these are not shy people. Not even a little bit. And they gave us lots of ideas. Hey, if we did this, I think it would work out much better. Okay, cool. Let's do that. And then we just, do that. And if you're ever thinking, I wonder if I'm spending enough time, just spend more. Check in with them. They'll at some point be like, okay, it's enough. I don't have time to talk to you right now. I got work to do. And then you've given them enough to do, because they'll just tell you, I gotta go. I don't have time for your chit chat anymore.
Very cool.
But I believe in you. I think you could do it very, very well.
Thumbs up.
All right. All right. Some final thoughts on making everything better for everyone. I'm going to repeat a few things that I have said already. Remember that a high-level person should be assigned to own the internship. This is not something to give to one of your low-level people to run the internship. I was the president of the organization. I was running the internship personally. It is hugely valuable. Find someone who has a lot of power and influence in the organization. Make sure that's the person that owns the internship. You can assign an administrative person to handle the scheduling and all the other kind of, detailed stuff that needs to be done. There's a lot. That person's time is going to be mostly consumed. Your high-level person's time will be about 25 to 50% consumed. It's super fun. This is a gift you're giving someone. The ability to run this internship over that time period. It's my favorite time of the year. And whoever is going to be doing it, make sure that person, it's their favorite time of the year too. So find the person who's really, really enthusiastic about it. It is absolutely delightful. So think of it as a gift you're giving someone. The whole point is, like I said, for this to be summer camp. This should be a fun time. It should be a fulfilling time. It should be a good time for both the interns and for the firm itself. If there are things in the way and something's not working, just change it. There's nothing you need to do to stick to your plan. It doesn't matter. If anyone's not having a good time, find a way to make sure everyone's having a good time, right? I almost used the be Julie, the cruise director, but then 90% of the people on the call don't know what that is because I'm too old. That's from The Love Boat. But you want to just be the person who is always making sure that everyone's having a good time. Daily, an intern should have a meeting with someone in your firm every day, if not more often, right? You cannot neglect people. If they don't have anything on their calendar, get get something on their calendar, whether it's you, someone else, it doesn't matter. Just check in every day, every single day by someone. You can see their calendars, have them up on your screen, make sure they have a meeting on there at least every day, right? It's really important. It's about the number of touches, right? You want to make sure that that person is being addressed and having an interaction with you every single day. The idea is about exposure, right? You want to expose your interns to as many parts of your organization as possible, as many things you do as possible. If there are things that you do as an organization that aren't going to happen during your internship, make them happen so they can experience it. Fake it if you need to. Do mock versions. Definitely do that. I see Kelly's question. I'll address it in just a second. The final piece is, and I've gotten a lot of questions about this over the years, the research project is not important at all. It's always the lowest priority. The point of it is to give them something to do when you don't have anything for them to do, right? It's to fill their downtime, right? So if they get busy, so busy that they can't finish their project, don't worry about it. It's okay, right? That's the least important part. The important part is if they're sitting in meetings every day and they have all these client meetings and they're doing all this other stuff, they're out there networking in the industry and all this other things, like the research project, you can just skip. You just wave it away, right? It's honestly just there kind of to be busy work, so they have something to do and can, justify getting paid when they're not working. Speaking of pay range, I think BLX is at the time it was a minimum of 15. I don't know if they've raised that to 20. 20 is fine. What is the current minimum pay?
Yeah, right now we did change that range to be at least $20 an hour.
Yeah, I think 20 is great. If you, at the time it was 15 was the minimum, and we paid 17 just so we'd pay a little bit more than other people. So if you want to go to 22 or 23 just so that you look cooler, I think it's great. It definitely gives you that feeling of just kind of one-upping the rest of the firms. But I think the real value here isn't the pay, although it's important to pay our interns. The real value is what you're offering them. It's a big opportunity for them. Sean has some great suggestions for Kelly. We thought about flying our interns in for the final week, which would have been cool. Flying them in for the first week or two is fantastic. For us, it just came down to a question of cost because we had 4 interns. So flying everyone in for a week would have been, decently expensive. And we figured we'd rather have 1 more intern than fly in 3. But we thought about it and we tried. I think it would be a really good experience. I think in-person interactions are great, but and in general are better than the online interactions for some people, although not for everyone. And if you can get them in for a week or 2, I think that's absolutely lovely, especially if you're up in Sebastopol and you can go hiking in the redwoods. I think it's delightful. But to Sean's last point, a virtual experience will vastly increase your pool of candidates and allow you to get people who are just a better fit for you, potentially, if you're not worried about geography. I'm a big proponent of this kind of virtual work and absolutely believe that it increases the value of your firm just from a valuation perspective if you can operate with virtual teams. And that's primarily because it allows you to grow your staff faster and with a better pool of people. So when I'm doing valuation work for clients, I'm looking at their firm, and if they can only hire locally, that's going to impact their valuation because it's going to take them longer to hire. They might have to pay more for those people because they have to pay for relocation, and if they're in a particular expensive area, they might have to just pay more in general. But some of those firms, they just can't find people. I hear a lot from firms who, particularly the ones who are have strict kind of geography and need everyone to come into the office, and in one particular office, they can't find people, especially if they're not in a major area. And so highly recommend that you get good at virtual to benefit your firm as a whole. And if there's one great way to get a lot of reps at virtual work, it's by having an 8-week virtual internship. You will learn a lot of the weaknesses you have as an organization about virtual work in a way that's relatively inexpensive, with people who aren't your employees yet. They aren't your clients yet. They're not working with your clients yet. And you have this ability to try it out for 8 weeks and see how it goes. You can even, in that 8-week period during your internship, see if a lot of your people want to work at home for 8 weeks or go travel and work somewhere else for 8 weeks. Give it a 2-month trial. Like, let's make our firm fully virtual for 8 weeks. It's not a bad idea. I'd go for it. See how you can do. If you get good at it, you will be a better firm and your firm will have a higher valuation. You want to add anything to that, Sean?
No, I just, you were helping me prepare for a presentation about internship programs. And one of the things you mentioned is internship is a great way to build your talent pipeline. And I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but it was almost like you had a rule of thumb of you should take on 2 interns for every role that you're looking to hire, as just, you can kind of compare them to each other. And then, like, if you think about hiring like a recruiting firm to hire a full-time position, the cost works out to roughly about the same, and they're only going to place 1 person with you. Whereas with the internship, you get 2 people to consider. You get to test drive them for 60, 90 days. I think, could you talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that was like a interesting way of thinking about it. And that might even be applicable to not just like the large firms, but maybe a medium firm that if they're looking to hire 1 person, consider hiring 2 interns for the summer.
Yeah, I think that's a good ratio. If you have 2 open positions, hire 4 interns. If you have 1 open position, hire 2 interns. I think it allows you to understand who's who. Worst case scenario, you really wish you could hire both. Maybe that's worst case. I guess worst case is you hired 2 interns that are bad fits, and that's a bummer, but it's fine. You still had a good time probably, unless you hired bad interns, which is a bummer. But Suzanne would never let that happen. I will say that Advisor Business Solutions, with Suzanne's leadership, found me the best interns. She just sent them over, and I'm like, oh, you sent me 5? Great, these 4 are perfect. Like, it was no drama. It was so easy. We had the best kind of hiring experience with her. I don't know, maybe she just got me better than everyone else, but I think she gets everybody. Yeah, if you have those positions, I think 2 for every 1. I think a variety of types of people is really great, as I mentioned. And then you can kind of suit them in. When we had the 4 interns, we almost hired 3. We almost hired 2 as associates and 1 recent grad as a CSA. And then the 4th, I liked having someone that wasn't hireable. I liked having the social worker and the doula in there. They brought such an amazingly interesting perspective to me. I learned about Brave Space from our social worker. I'm still really close with my doula friend, and she taught me about entrepreneurship, something that some things that I just didn't know. And she was an incredible source of inspiration for me, and still reaches out and pushes my boundaries a little bit, makes sure I'm being brave. It was a fantastic experience. So find some of those people. You might have a client who's interested in your internship, or one of your clients. I think your clients are better than your clients' kids. I try not to bring on clients' kids because it creates a little bit of awkwardness. But if you have a client who wants to do it, then it's great. Definitely, think about it both from that, like Sean mentioned, have twice as many as you need. But don't be afraid to hire extra. It works out too.
And one more thing I just wanted you to reiterate or comment on that really stuck with me when we were talking was, if you are looking to hire diverse candidates, you might want to think about your like new employee referral program at your firm. If you're trying to get people with different backgrounds, then maybe you shouldn't pay your team to hire people that are just like your team. I don't know, I thought that was just interesting. I think that, I don't know, it deserves repeating and you to expand on it a little bit, just for like the industry to think about too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, if you pay your staff for employee referrals, you're going to have a very homogeneous staff. That's how it works. I think it's well understood in kind of the DEI space. I've heard it many, many times. Stop paying your people for employee referrals. In addition to that, make everyone go through the same hiring process, whether you know them or not. If one of your advisors or one of your staff members knows someone that you're looking to hire, either as an internship or whatever, they go through the same process. They have to meet everyone the same way, kind of discount whatever pre-knowledge you have of that person. Pretend they're coming in completely separate. And obviously, if someone knows that person, they should not be involved in the hiring process of that person. I think it benefits everyone if you have a very robust hiring process that doesn't involve any level of, well, they're my friend, so I'll bring them in. Now, people from Abacus who are watching this are like, yeah, you did that all the time, man. I'm like, yeah, sometimes I did. And I learned that lesson many times that was not the right process. So I'm speaking to this not just as offering advice, but I'm offering it as personal failures that sometimes I would hire my friends. It sometimes worked out well, but it always, sometimes it worked out well for the firm, but it always kind of worked out badly for me. And so if you want a diverse pool of candidates, don't have your existing staff refer them in, right? Have your existing staff go out there and evangelize your firm. They should go talk to your firm, to everyone that they ever meet, and about how awesome it would be to become a financial advisor. That's fine. You want them to do that. Just don't incentivize them with money, because if you incentivize them with money, they're going to be hunting, and they're going to be hunting in their own networks as opposed to just out there planting seeds in as many places as possible. If you have a good working environment, your staff will go look for other people to work for you inherently. There will be an internal motivation to go find good people if you have a great team and a good culture. They want good people to come in and join your culture. Some of the other things, I think it has become much more kind of known and understood that you shouldn't be looking for culture fits. Don't look for people that fit into your culture. Look for people who have perspectives that add to your culture. You want to find people that bring you something new, that bring you something that you don't already have, that bring you a background that isn't shared by other people. And that will challenge you as a firm, but it will make you better as a firm. And so we banned the term culture fit. We used the term culture add instead. And just that small change kind of really gave everyone the idea of what we were looking to do. I think that's, kind of a very becoming more and more well-known best practice. So I think that you should definitely follow it. Any final last question before we wrap up? Because I think we are now at time. Suzanne, do you want to take us out? How do we, what's our ending process here?
Help you out there, JD. Thank you so much for your time and for taking the time to present this fantastic information. For anybody that's watching, thank you so much for registering, for attending today. You can visit our website for any information you want to know about BLX. I'm going to put that in the chat. There you can sign up for any additional webinars that we're hosting. You can also place your applications. And one other thing I'll say is, JD, you did touch on the speaker series during the summer, and that is something that we do offer to all of our firms that participate with us. We bring in speakers from across the financial planning profession to talk to interns. So that's something that we do for anyone that participates, that you have something for your interns to attend. So thank you so much. Anything else? Any other questions we have? Let's see. Okay.
Luis is commenting on my pie versus cake question. During my internship, when we had speakers, I always asked them one final question, was whether they were, team cake or team pie. I'll answer for myself. Definitely on team pie. Pie is better than cake. If you don't agree, then you're wrong.
Nice. All right. Well,
I just wanted to say thank you very much, everyone, for coming. JD, so appreciate all of your very valuable thoughts and suggestions, and we really appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.